Hi, everybody. This is Queen Bliss, known as Bliss. I'm doing something a little different today. I actually want to make a video so that I can decrease negative stigmas in the African American community regarding mental illness. Is such a problem that people don't like to talk about it. And I understand it because I've been through it. And I'm letting you know that just because somebody has been diagnosed with a mental illness does not mean that it's a death sentence, but it becomes a death sentence because people allow it to be that. Once a person is diagnosed with a mental illness, their whole life is changed because now they have something attached to them, like cancer, like diabetes. But it's in the head, it's all mental, and you can't see it. So you always think there's something wrong with that person. If that person is having a bad day, it's mental. If that person starts saying stuff that is not of the norm, which norm is culture specific, then it's all mental. Anything that person does becomes associated with their mental diagnosis, but that is not true. Any change that person makes becomes associated with their mental illness, and that is not true. So I'm here right now to diminish those stigmas in the African American community because if we can't be there for one another, if we can't allow people to get the help that they need, then we might as well hand people a shovel and tell them to dig their graves. And we might as well dig their graves for them because then we're doomed. Because there are a lot of people going through things and they need help. And we have to be the ones to help them. So, what I've done is I've put together a PowerPoint so people can ask questions and so that they can know what to expect and what actually they're dealing with when they're dealing with mental disorders. So, first thing you want to know is what is a mental disorder? Well, the DSM 4, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, the fourth edition, says that a mental disorder is conceptualized as a clinically significant behavioral or psychological syndrome that is associated with distress and disability. So what that really means is that that person is the mental disorder is harmful to the person, and then it can cause that person to act other than what they've been normally acting. And as I said before, a normal is culture specific. So if you take someone from Haiti or someone from Ghana or Nigeria and they are not acting the way that they would normally act within their culture, then that is what culture specific is. And with from a biological viewpoint, the causes of mental disorder. Now, this is really where you question what does a mental disorder come from, and it could come from a number of things. There is neurotransmitter and hormonal abnormalities, which is the belief that neurotransmitters in the brain cause abnormal behavior, and hormones, which are chemical messages sent by endocrine glands by our body. This is stuff like fight or flight reactions, sexual responses, physical growth, stuff like that. Just kind of think about how you feel when you are you or if you're a man, think about the emotional responses that your girlfriend has or you have right before her menstrual cycle comes on. She can have mood swings. There are sexual responses that she may feel. So those are hormonal changes. Or like when a woman is pregnant, those are hormonal changes too. So and that comes from the endocrine gland, if I'm not mistaken. So stuff like that. And there are genetic vulnerabilities, which I can use words like phenotype and polygenic and alleles, if I'm saying that correctly. Um, but it's really what's in your genetic makeup. This stuff like schizophrenia, bipolar, it's like what's in your family genes. So that's genetic vulnerabilities. And then there's temperament and brain dysfunctions and neuroplasticity. Temperament refers to reactions and characteristics, um, the ways that we regulate ourselves. And brain dysfunctions and neuroplasticity deals with the developmental stages of the brain and how it functions. And if you or anyone you know has a mental disability, please do the research. I mean, it will help you to understand them a little bit better, so you'll know what they're actually, going through. And there are psychological causal factors. Um, Such as early deprivation or trauma, which is seen in abandoned and orphan children. And it's usually institutionalized or children that are placed in multiple foster homes or foster homes where these children are not cared for at all. And we've all seen them. Foster parents who only get the kids for the money and don't really care about what they do and stuff like that. And it can also occur in homes where parents are not really, there for their child. We've all seen that too, unfortunately. And psychological factors also deals with inadequate parenting styles, but it also involves bi-directional relationship, as far as some parents do everything they can do for their kids, and their kids are just not, you know it's just not there. Some kids are just hard to love, and their parents just do everything that they can for them. And but then some kids, some parents are just, they just don't care about their kids, and some kids, just want that love from their parents, and their parents are just not there emotionally. So I'm gonna talk about some parenting styles. There's the authoritative parent, which they are warm and they set boundaries, and the children show a positive development. They're energetic and funny. And then there's the authoritarian parenting style, which is not very warm, and they're highly controlling, and their children tend to have poor social and cognitive skills, and they don't do well in school. And there's the permissive and the indulgent parent, where they're very warm, with little discipline. They let their kids do whatever they want. The children tend to be selfish and spoiled and antisocial. We've seen these kids, and they don't do good in school because, they don't really have to. Mom, dad lets them do what they want to do. Mom, dad lets them get away with everything, and you know, we all know these kind of kids. This all leads to mental disorders. So, but and then there's also the neglectful and the uninvolved parent, which they're not warm and they're not involved in the parenting, and the children are moody and they have low self esteem and they develop problems later as adults. All these parenting styles, besides the authoritative parenting style, can lead to mental illnesses within children. So then there's also marital discord. Um, Marital discord and divorce, we all know this leads to um, mental illness. It can lead to mental illness, emotional distress, psychological distress for everyone involved. So in the divorce, we know this leads to uh, emotional stress, mental stress, physical stress for everyone involved. And then maladaptive peer relationships with kids and with adults. It leads to mental disorder, mental illness, and there are sociocultural causal factors. This is where a lot of mental illness comes into play with ethnic groups, and but there's a low socioeconomic and unemployment. The lower the socioeconomic class, the higher the mental disorder. People who are diagnosed with mental disorder are pushed further down the socioeconomic ladder due to social stigmas. Sometimes people don't have the strength to pull themselves back up, and when this happens, family and friends are kind of needed to push that person, to look, I'm not going to let you do this to yourself. Get up, get moving. And a lot of times right now, people are so self-absorbed, they don't care. You have some people that care and some families that care, but a lot of times it's not my problem. I don't care. That's not the way to be. Especially when it's your family member, you know, come you have to be that fist and not like this. You have to be that fist. So, okay. But children and adolescents that come from a lower socioeconomic status have a lot of problems in school and can show a lot of mental illnesses. Um, and these signs and symptoms start as early as preschool. So when you're looking at the dropout rate, or you're looking at the prison rate, kind of like think about mental illnesses too. It's more prevalent. It's prevalent, but think about it. A lot more people have mental illnesses than you are thinking of, and nobody is talking about it. So here I am. And here are other people, and I commend the people that are talking about it, because it plagues the black community, and nobody is really talking about it. People are talking about it. And I heard the other day that the AKAs have teamed up with NAMI, which I thought was really good. It made me smile, because it's heartbreaking when you talk to people and you tell them that you're going through something, and people are like, oh, don't talk about that. You shouldn't talk about that. Don't tell anybody. Why not tell anybody? We need to talk about this, because, there are so many disparities within the community. It's really not even funny, but okay. Let me finish. There are prejudice and discrimination in race, gender, and ethnicity. And this, it leads, being subjected to demoralizing stereotypes can play a major role on self-esteem. Imagine going to work every day, or imagine walking into a store and being followed just because you're black, or being turned away from a job just because you're black, or of another ethnicity. Um and being discriminated in the workplace, not being promoted, knowing that you are the best person for the job and they know you are the best person for the job. All these things take a factor. They play a role, so yeah, also urban stressors, violence and homelessness, especially violence in the community. How can, it not affect somebody looking out, walking down the street and being subjected to violence all the time, being subjected to, criminal activity all the time, especially in urban communities. How can it not affect us? How can it not affect the black community? Like, we see this every day. I remember living in one apartment, and I walked outside one day, and just being subjected to it. It affects you. It affects your your psychological it affects you psychologically. It affects the way you see yourself. It affects you. So domestic violence affects women, and it affects children. All these things are stressors, and it can affect you mentally. But social change and uncertainty. Look at the economy now. It's up 1 minute, it's down 1 minute. It's up 1 minute, it's down 1 minute. So you don't know what to do. You don't know, should I invest my money in this? Should I invest my money in this? What should I do? So all those things can take a place. Can take a toll on you emotionally. It can take a toll on you mentally. So these are all causal factors. But I do want to say that if you don't know what to do, and if you're going through these things, call for help. It's not the end of the world if you are going through a mental illness. It's not a death sentence. There is medicine that can get you balanced, because I know people who are bipolar. It's not something that they diagnosed me as being bipolar, but I was not bipolar. I was actually post traumatic stress and depressive. But I know people who have dealt with being bipolar. I know people who have been diagnosed with being bipolar. And being on medication is good, and staying at it and being at a therapeutic level, it is good. I know people with schizophrenia. Really, really bad schizophrenia. I know people who are depressed, um, who have depressive disorders, who have anxiety disorders. And it's not the end of the world for them. It's not the end of the world. So if you find yourself having been diagnosed, you can live with a mental disorder. Once you get back into balance after a few years, you can even stop taking with your doctor's help, taper off of the medicine, and your catharsis can come through art, music, and writing. This is just the first series of a 3-part series, because I do want to tell you my story. I do want to tell you how I ended up being diagnosed, because I'm stubborn. I was at the height of my life, working 3 jobs at my dream school, and I had to come back home, and I ended up being diagnosed. And I want to tell you, but you have to stay tuned. So if you need help, don't hesitate to go to your local mental health clinic or go see a private psychiatrist, psychologist, therapist. They're all different. Some psychiatrists hold a license for to be a psychologist. Mine did. She was a psychiatrist and a psychologist. But don't just get treated by your doctor. See a therapist too. But you can always contact me at nerdishqueen@outlook.com, and I will be more than happy to walk you through the process of what you would be going through if you are going to see someone. So, I just want to say to you, peace, love, and live blissful. And you are not alone.